Whether you're looking to widen your career opportunities, prepare for some upcoming travel, or even start a New Year's resolution, learning a new language can be both a challenging and a rewarding opportunity to learn a new skill. Your first step should always be to do a bit of research to find out what language you'd like to learn, unless you had one specifically in mind. One possible way that you might start your research is to search what's the easiest language in the world to learn. But there isn't really a straightforward answer to this question. So in this video, we're going to take a look at what in fact are the easiest languages to learn. There are a lot of important factors to consider when thinking about what is the easiest language to learn. The most important factor is, what is your mother tongue? Person A, who speaks Spanish as their first language, might find Italian or Portuguese easier to learn than English. Person B, who speaks Mandarin, might find Cantonese easier to master than French. The list of easy languages varies depending on your starting point. On an individual level, you should consider how accessible native speakers of your target language are. It might be hard to learn Cree, an indigenous language spoken in Canada, if you're living in the UK. You should also consider what other languages you speak. If you speak English and French already, you might be more successful learning Spanish, Italian, or Portuguese than someone who only speaks English. Bearing all of that in mind, what are the easiest languages for English speakers to learn? While you might not believe this, French is one of the easiest languages for English speakers to learn. You might have heard that English has a lot of words of Latin origin, and the prime reason for this is because of French's influence. The Normans invaded the British Isles and conquered the British in 1066 at the Battle of Hastings. Much of the British Isles fell under the rule of the Normans for many years. With them, the Normans brought their French language, and as a result, many French words, originally of Latin origin, entered into the English language, particularly in the high society domains like literature and law. If you're interested in learning more about the history of French and how it transformed from Latin into French over the past 2,000 years, check out this video. In more recent centuries, France and Britain's historic rivalry and then subsequent alliance beginning in the 20th century allowed for many opportunities for French words to enter into the English language. This shared vocabulary makes learning French easier for English speakers. Speakers of Canadian English are also at a bit of an advantage when learning French due to the constant exposure to written French in daily life. One of the reasons why French is so challenging for many people is because, like English, the spelling of French doesn't always match exactly how you would pronounce something. English, in fact, is far worse than French, if you can believe it. Spanish, on the other hand, is quite consistent in terms of pronunciation and spelling. In almost all cases, Spanish is pronounced exactly as it's spelled, which makes it easier on language learners. For American English speakers in particular, the geographic and cultural ties between the US and many parts of Latin America have allowed many Spanish words to enter into American English, particularly with respect to food-related words. Portuguese is another language that is often considered an easier language for English speakers to learn. You will find Portuguese especially easy to learn if you already speak Spanish, as there are many words of similar origins shared between Spanish and Portuguese. While many parts of the English-speaking world are not geographically close to Portugal or Brazil, Portuguese speakers from Portugal and Brazil can be found in many English-speaking regions of the world, especially Canada, the United States, and England. Having native speakers nearby who you can practice with makes the language learning process easier. Another Romance language is Romanian. Romanian is an often forgotten about Romance language. Most people know the largest Romance languages include French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, but Romanian, with almost 25 million speakers around the world, is another language that will be easier to learn for English speakers. Those who may have a bit of experience with any Slavic language, like Polish or Serbian, may find Romanian easier to learn than other Romance languages. Because Romanian is in Eastern Europe, surrounded by several Slavic languages, you'll find that Romanian has many borrowed words of Slavic origin. Romanian, since it is a descendant of Latin, has a similar sentence structure and word order to Spanish, Portuguese, French, and Italian, which in turn is relatively similar to English as well. Number 5 on the list is Italian. I promise you this list isn't just going to be Romance languages, so bear with me. Italy is a popular tourist destination, just like France, Spain, and Portugal. There are also lots of Italian speakers in Canada, the US, the UK, and Australia, so practicing your new Italian with a native speaker is not outside of the realm of possibility. Italian, as a descendant of Latin, shared a similar sentence structure and vocabulary with all of the languages mentioned previously. Due to Italy's role in music and cuisine, English has borrowed many words from these areas, so you probably already know a few Italian words to start with. If you're enjoying this video so far, I'd really appreciate it if you could support my channel by liking this video. I'd also love it if you subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on new content and to be part of our language-loving community. Next on our list are the Scandinavian languages, Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish. Swedish is spoken by almost 13 million people, Norwegian by 5 million, and Danish by almost 6 million. The majority of which live in their respective countries of Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. These languages are actually closely related to English, German, and Dutch. Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish originate from Old Norse, which came from an early form of German, often referred to as Proto-Germanic. The Germanic languages have 3 main groups: the East Germanic languages, which are sadly extinct, the West Germanic languages, including English, German, Dutch, Afrikaans, and Yiddish, and the North Germanic languages, which include Swedish, Norwegian, Danish, and Icelandic. Due to the fact that Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish are not spoken much outside of their respective countries, it may be hard to practice these languages from home if you don't live there. But given the shared ancestry between these languages and English, the learning process might be faster than other languages. Although you may find some sounds in these languages hard to pronounce, there are a lot of shared words and sentence structure is similar to English. Although the spelling might throw you off, you might be surprised how familiar certain words are in Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish. Number 9 on the list is Dutch. If you could compare Dutch to another language, I would probably describe it as a child of English and German. Dutch words often look or sound similar to English or German words. The sentence structure of Dutch is quite similar to German. However, Dutch's sentence structure is more similar to English than German's. Where German has a lot of grammar rules that differ from English, Dutch has less of these rules that differ from English. This list was based on research conducted by the American Foreign Service Institute, which specializes in teaching American diplomats foreign language. Their list organizes languages by the approximate number of hours associated with learning that language. All of the languages in this list must take approximately 600 class hours to learn, with the exception of French, which takes 750. But the last 2 languages on our list were not listed on the Foreign Services Institute, and they're possibly the easiest of all 11 languages to learn. Esperanto is a fascinating language for several reasons. Primarily, the language was actually created in 1887 by a Polish ophthalmologist named L.L. Zamenhof. Esperanto has about 2 million speakers around the world, the vast majority of whom speak Esperanto as a second language. This makes Esperanto the largest constructed language in the world. Constructed languages are those that were consciously created rather than naturally developing from an earlier language. Esperanto takes much of its inspiration for vocabulary from the Romance languages. However, it is notable for having no irregular verb rules, no gender, and no case. The language was created to be a lingua franca across Europe that could easily be learned by anyone, without having to master exceptions to rules, like in most other languages. This language is spoken all over the world, but primarily in Europe. Our final language is Frisian. You might have never heard of Frisian before, but technically speaking, Frisian is the easiest language for English speakers to learn, because it's the closest related language to English in the world. Frisian is a group of languages generally with 3 main dialect groups. West Frisian with 470,000 speakers who predominantly live in the western part of the Netherlands, North Frisian with 10,000 speakers in the Schleswig-Holstein region of Germany, and Saterland Frisian, the last remaining dialect of the Eastern Frisian dialect spoken in Lower Saxony with about 2,000 speakers. Although Frisian is a close relative to English, the grammar is very similar to Dutch. Thankfully, there are a lot of shared words between Frisian and English, which would make learning this language easier. That being said, English contains a lot of borrowed words, so many of English's words that are of Germanic origin are likely to be found with a similar pronunciation in Frisian, but English words originally from French, Latin, or other languages may not be the same in Frisian. Way back in the day, about 1,000 years ago, Old Frisian and Old English were actually very similar, but it was from that point onwards that they began to diverge from each other. There you have it. Those are, in my opinion, the easiest languages for English speakers to learn. However, there is one important factor that we did not take into consideration in this video just yet, and that part is you. You are the most important part in choosing a language that you want to learn. And that's because in order to be successful learning a language, you have to put in a lot of work and you have to be motivated. So the easiest language to learn is the language that you're going to be the most interested in learning. The more interested and passionate you are about the language and culture, the easier it's going to be to learn that language, even if it's a hard one, not listed on this list at all. Subscribe to my channel to learn more about the world's languages. Don't forget to turn on the notifications to be notified about new videos each week. Here are some other videos you might be interested in.